Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of Stitchmas. I think this is probably the day I'm most excited to share with you because I have what I'm calling a recipe for this ice cream koozie. So I don't know if you saw when the Little Debbie's ice cream was going viral, this one here with the Christmas tree cake. At that time, I was like, oh, I should make an ice cream koozie. But I kept not getting around to it. And then this year, I was like, I'm making it happen for Stitchmas. So I'm going to share with you today how I made this. I'm super excited. And I left the back blank, just like the cake has nothing on the back of it. I am super excited. And like I said, this is going to be a recipe. This is not a full pattern. It's going to be a recipe. I'm going to show you, the things that I went through to make it. And probably, I'll make some suggestions. For one, just right off the bat, I did these crochet. I crocheted this overlays and everything. But I mean, honestly, you could go super easy on this. And you could use some red puffy paint. Or you could make an I-cord and sew it on there. Or, I mean, if you wanted to just do white with green sprinkles, or if you just wanted to make the koozie, I mean, it's all pretty easy and it's up to you. So we'll get into that in just a minute. But first, if you've been tuning in, my husband has made me an advent calendar. And since we're counting, this is day 3 of Stitchmas, but we're counting down with the advent calendar to Christmas. We are 10 days away from Christmas, which is crazy. Tomorrow will be in single digits. So let's see what day 10 holds for me. Day 1 was pretty awesome. Day 2 was pretty awesome. Ooh, I've been smelling peppermint in this box where I have all the things. And I've been knowing there's going to be something. And look, today's the day. A couple of these peppermints. I love these ones. They're the ones that just melt away in your mouth. I love that. I'm going to set those aside, and I'm totally going to have some of those later. All right. So, well, Merry Christmas tag. Miss Brie, this is another great day for a crocheter with all the new patterns, which yesterday I got a coupon for a pattern shopping spree. So this one says we get to go on a yarn shopping spree for the new patterns. Ooh, I'll have to take you guys. I'm going to have to try and take you guys with me. I don't know if they'll let me film there. I'll have to do a full yarn haul for you and let you know what patterns I picked out and what yarn I end up buying to make those patterns. Ooh, that's so exciting. But man, this whole Stitchmas so far has been full of so much excitement. So let's go to the table and I'll show you how I did this, and then we'll be back to talk about it. First off, let's give fair warning that this is a recipe, not a pattern per se. I'm using this empty ice cream container, so I have a reference on the size of the bottom, how tall I need it, because I'm going to use yarn that's maybe different to what you're going to use. So let me show you what I'm using for mine, and then I'll try and fill you in on how you can customize it as we go. I'm using 2 different hooks. One of the hooks I'll be using is this L 8mm. This will be for the super bulky yarn, weight 6. I'll be using this one for the cotton yarn. It's an H, size 5mm. A stitch marker, of course. So this white cotton yarn will be used for the bottom. This way, I tested it with the fluffy yarn, the super bulky, but it was not stable, and I didn't want to take a chance on the koozie falling over. More than likely, you're going to be holding it in your hand, so it's not going to matter. But for me, I wanted to be able to set it down, and this yarn is going to allow that because it's a lot thinner. For the floofy white outside, I found this at Walmart. It was the Mainstay Velvet, and it's a weight 6 yarn. This red we're going to use for the frosting stripes, and this is just we'll use this red for the frosting stripes. It's just a red cotton yarn. This is just your run-of-the-mill worsted weight green for the sprinkles. So these are all the supplies I'll be using. You're first going to want to use the yarn, whatever yarn you're using for the bottom of your koozie. So it's going to need to match this in the end. Like I said, I'm using this white cotton. I'm using the white cotton yarn because it's going to make a sturdier bottom. We're going to start off with a magic ring. Or if you would like, if you're not comfortable with the magic ring, you can chain 3. Go into your first chain, form a ring, and you can work within that ring. Otherwise, you can follow me, and I'm going to use the magic ring. So how I use mine, I lay the yarn across my 2 fingers, hold it with my thumb and my middle finger. I'm going to bring it from the back to the front. I'm going to make an X. I'm going to use my ring finger to hold that in place. I've got these 2 strands. Take my hook. I'm going to go under the first one. I'm going to grab the second one, and that's got a little loop going on there. So I'm going to pinch that, take my fingers out. Then I'm going to proceed to put the yarn, wind it around my hand, just like I would with my working strand. So I'm going to chain 1 just to lock that in so that my ring is a little bit easier to work with. First thing we're going to do, we're going to put 6 half doubles into the ring. So after my first one, I want to know where my first stitch is always. So I'm going to pop this stitch marker in. And then I'm going to proceed to make the other 5 half doubles. So we'll have a total of 6 half double crochets. So I've got 2, this will be 3, 4, and 5, and 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's cinch that up. Straighten out my yarn here. Cinch up loop. And then for our next row, we are going to do 12 half doubles. So in order to get to 12 half doubles by the end of this round, we are going to put 2 half doubles in each of the stitches we made from the previous round. So let's get started into that. Do not forget to move your stitch marker because you got to know what that first stitch is that you made. So after completing the first one, I'm moving my stitch marker up so I know where I'm going. All right, so 2 half doubles in each, and then we'll meet back up. I've made it to the end. There should be 12 half doubles. In our next row, we want to end up with 18 half doubles at the end of the round. Now, how are we going to get there? We're going to do 2 half doubles in the first stitch, 1 half double in the second, 2 half doubles in the next, 1 half double. So kind of like, I like to think of it as increments of 3. 2, 1, 2, 1. All the way around, you should end up with 18 half doubles. Don't forget to move your stitch marker up, and away we go. I'll meet up with you in a moment. We are at the end of our 3rd round with 18 half doubles. And periodically, how we make this customizable is we're going to check and see if this, round that we just made is wide as this. So obviously we've got a ways to go. If you're using a bulkier yarn, yours may be getting close. We are going to proceed on to the next round. So by the end of this round, we want to have 24 half doubles. How are we going to get there? We're going to do 2 half doubles in the first, and then we're going to do 1 half double in the next, 1 half double in the next. So that's like 4 stitches. And then we're going to do 2 half doubles, 1 half double, 1 half double, 2 half doubles, 1 half double, 1 half double. All the way around, we should end up with 24 stitches. I like to think of it increments of 4. 2, 1, 1, that equals 4. So 2 in the first, and away we go. Now we're at the end of our round 4. We should have 24 stitches. And it's getting pretty close. So let me bring it over this way so you can see. It's just a little bit smaller, and this is going to have some stretch to it. So you don't want it to be too big, but it fits kind of in the middle of this. So from our next round, this is where we're done with the cotton yarn, and we're going to move on to our bulky weight. So we can cut our yarn. And we can fasten off. And we're done with this one. Now, go ahead and switch over to your other hook, which should be your L 8mm hook. And we're going to bring out the fluffy yarn. We can remove our stitch marker for a moment. I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick slip knot. Put that onto my hook. Make sure I got my stitch marker handy. And instead of working in the entire, like under both loops like you would when you normally crochet, we're only going to work into the front loop. So front loop only, all the way around. We ended with 24 stitches last time, and we should have 24 stitches this time. This round, instead of working under both loops, we're only going to be working into the front loop. So the front loop is the one that is in front of you. The back loop is the one that's behind what's in front of you. First thing we need to do is attach that yarn with a slip stitch, and we're going to do a half double all the way around. Now, it's very important that you use a stitch marker to mark where that first one is, because this yarn it can be really hard to see your stitches. So if you have a hard time seeing your stitches, which I do too, the best thing I can do is say fudge it a little bit if you need to. Just make sure you end up with 24 stitches at the end. So I'm gonna leave you to it. After you get your 24 stitches into the front loop only, all the way around, we'll meet back up. I've made it to the end of my 24 stitches, and you can see that this is going to fit nice and snug into here. There's a little bit of room all the way around, but it's going to be nice and snug. And because of this cotton on the bottom, it's going to sit a little bit flatter than it would have if we would have used the fluff all the way through. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to sit perfectly level, but it's going to sit a lot better. We've got our 24 half double crochets done. So from this point on, we're going to do half doubles in both loops all the way around, fudging it if you need to, because these, with all this floof, it's hard to see. Just make sure you end up with 24 half doubles at the end, even if you have to increase or decrease in a spot, because this is a recipe, not a pattern, and we can do that here. For me, my goal is to work this up until it's basically like it hits the bottom of the lid, because I don't want it all the way to the edge, because I don't want it to get dirty. So basically I'm going to leave the lid on, and I'll let you know how many rows I end up with, but just maintain those 24 stitches all the way around, making sure to move up your stitch marker each time into your first stitch, so you know where each row begins. I'm going to go ahead and crochet mine until it hits the bottom edge of my lid, and I'll let you know how many rows that is for me. Now, if you're using a different yarn, it could be a different number for you. That's okay. Maybe you want yours taller, maybe you want yours shorter. I'm just going to share with you what I do in mine. All right, so in the end, it took me 7 rows, and this is what it kind of looks like. Here's the bottom, here's the sides. All right, and let me just pop that in there. So it's in there nice and tight. So I'm getting ready to fasten off. To me, I think this is the perfect amount. It leaves a little bit of a ridge, so your ice cream, you're less likely to slop ice cream on it. So that's what it looks like after 7 rows. Now for you, you may have to do more or less rows depending on the size of your yarn and your own tension. But for me, 7 rows. Next thing you're gonna need for your ice cream koozie is a handle. So I'm just gonna make a quick slip knot, slide it onto my hook. I'm gonna chain 4. I'm gonna go into the 3rd chain, so feel for those there. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to single crochet into there. So I'm going to continue to single crochet across. That's 3 stitches. So this is how wide I would like my handle to be. I'm just doing 3 stitches. Now I'm just going to crochet 3 single crochets back and forth until it's the length I need, and I will let you know what that turns out to be for me. I ended up with 10 rows of 3 single crochets across. Now, the best way I can explain to go ahead and check this and see how it's going to work for you is if you go ahead and take a couple stitch markers, put it, you know, in that last row where we're towards the bottom here, we're going to end up sewing it. And then you can test it by crocheting across here if you wanted, or you could use 2 stitch markers. You just hold it with your hand and just make sure your hand's going to fit in there nicely. I got big hands, so I went on the bigger side, of course. If you need a little less material, you want a little snugger, you can go less, you can go more. What's working for me is 10 rows of 3 single crochets across. So now I want you to go ahead and you can fasten off. We're going to sew here. We're going to sew it down here. We're going to weave in our ends and we'll meet back up. You should have your ends woven in, your handle should be attached, and should be looking good. All right, through trial and error, the best strategy I'm finding is we're just going to do like some overlaying stitches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a spot kind of hidden in the handle, and I'm going to find like a single strand because I don't want it bulked up too much. And we're going to slip stitch it right there. Oops. We don't want it too tight. Okay, make sure that's a little loosey. All right, and then I'm just gonna eyeball it. So this looks like a good spot to put my next spot. Now this all should be loose. Like you don't want this tight. We're not trying to pull stitches together. But we're just gonna try and make like strategic lines to get the shape we want from our little frosting swirls. So I'm just kind of working upward a little bit. I'm gonna try and go like across a little bit here, and just, you can see how if you're not careful, you can end up with some weird lines. So that doesn't look okay to me. I'm gonna pull it out. No problem. We'll just, I went too big of a spot. Come back here, no problem. I just tried to go too big too fast. No big deal. A tip is kind of, if you see where that yarn's coming out, just try and use that same hole, but just go a different direction. And you're probably going to need to stop every once in a while, straighten it out, make sure it looks okay. Just make sure it's as smooth as possible. And I'm just going to keep maintaining. I go kind of straight across for a minute. See how that looks. And like, if you don't like it, pull it out, restart, no big deal. All right, it's just a stick and some yarn. So I'm going to work my way back down towards the bottom because I don't want it to go too high. I want to get other stripes in there. And I'm just going to kind of wrap around wherever feels right to you. I just keep maintaining going through the same hole where I just finished. I'm just going to do whatever feels right, whatever looks okay to you. Don't do it too tight, don't do it too loose. Just keep working across. Alright, now that I'm as far as I want to be, take a look, straighten out your work a little bit. Make sure it doesn't, you have too big of gaps. These don't have to be perfect, because you gotta remember this is also like supposed to be kind of like frosting. So I got like a little swoop going on there. And with all this fluff, you gotta spend a little time moving the yarn around. So it looks okay. Okay, I like that. So next, I'm gonna just do another one. I'm gonna keep kind of following this pattern, kind of maintaining the same kind of swoops and loops. Like this one went up in that area. I'm probably gonna start, the next one I'll probably just try and drop a little bit. Go drop and go down. you know, just kind of keep the wave going. Do I want to go all the way around? Maybe. We're just going to fasten that off. Bloop. I did 3 stripes, and these stripes are looking pretty ugly. Let me show you what we're going to do, though, to clean them up and bring it together. Because it looks like you can, let me grab my hook here. There's like these pieces that are sticking out like this. What we're going to do is we're just going to single crochet, following this along. And these spots where we want this to stay, we're just going to crochet right over that so that everything is tucked in nice, and it's going to make the icing a little thicker and give it a little bit more of texture, a little bit more of a 3D look. So let me just grab my red again. Now, if you decide to do more or less stripes than I did, that's totally fine. This is just what I wanted to do to make mine look good. And if you chose to just, you know, if you chose like to use puffy paint to add your stripes, whatever you chose is the right choice for you. So that's all that matters. So this is the right choice for me. I'm going to continue on. All right, so I got my yarn here, and I'm just literally, I mean, some of these spots I think you're going to need 2. So I'll just put 2 stitches right here, 2 single crochets. Right here, see how there's this little bit that's hanging down? We're going to pick that right up, bring it into here, so it's all together. And I put a 2 right there. Yeah, I mean, you can put 1, you put 2, whatever looks good to you. So I'm thinking in each of these spots, I think 2 looks pretty good. We don't want it too thick, and we don't want it too, like right here I'm just putting 1 because I think it's looking a little thick right there. So this spot could use 2, it looks like. Next spot, I think that just needs 1, so I'm just putting 1. And this is all you need to do if you're wanting to do yours like I did mine. Like I said, without this extra little bit here, it would look really rough. But this kind of brings it all together, makes it look smooth, thickens up that frosting. But just make sure that you pull all of it together. Crochet around the whole thing. Doesn't matter how many stitches, just make sure it all comes together and looks to your satisfaction. All right, I'm almost to the end here. Just a couple more to go. And before I fasten off, I want to take a little look, make sure that that's what I want it to look like. That looks good. That looks a lot better. See how these are pretty rough looking still? And then this has got a nice little frosting-y go. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fasten off. I'm going to do this one, and I'll be back. Alright, so I got my 3 rows done of single crochets on top of these overlays. And I think this looks empty. So I am going to add 1 more row. So I got that 4th row put in, and I like the way this looks. I think it came out pretty well. So I didn't do the striping on the back like I said I wasn't going to. I just leaving it like this, and I think it fits my hand well. So also I've got the green over here. I can add in some sprinkles, and we can call it a night. We can call it done after we get our green sprinkles in. Got my green, I got my needle, and I'm just going to start up the top here, and I'm just going to put them wherever my heart desires. Now these are, this is a lot of floof, a lot of big stitches, so I want these a little bit extra big. So that's how I'm going to do mine. But of course, your journey, you do it your way. So I'm just going to leave that, I'll fasten that off later and weave that in. So just wherever you think it looks good, and just make sure that you don't pull too tight because you want that green to be showing through. I mean, if you need to take your needle in there and just pull it out just a little bit. Just wherever you think. And I mean, the ugliness will be on the back. Nobody should be looking in there. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I have the desired amount of sprinkles that I want. So I'll meet you back up when I get my sprinkles all done. All right, so we're back. And I think that seems like easy enough. Like I said, recipe, not a pattern, just to give you an idea of like what you could do to make your own. Now, I mean, I have a few more things. I mean, I did put like the cotton on the bottom, you know, that helps it sit a little flatter. And this was like a super bulky, like 6. Like if you did a lighter, like blanket yarn, like it might sit just fine. So if you want to just do the whole thing in one kind of yarn, I think that's fine too. So for me though, there's no way it would have sat nicely because it's just too much floof with this kind of yarn. So like I said, that would be a good choice. You know, that's up to you kind of thing. The handle, you know, I like the wider handle. I've got big hands. I needed a larger handle. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe the person you're making for has smaller hands. Maybe you don't want a handle at all. Maybe you just want the Coozie around it and you're just going to hold on to it, you know, no handle needed. All of these things are totally up to you. And like I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out how I want to do the stripes. I do think that red puffy paint could be a good choice. I think that like just making chains and then sewing them in place, or I mean, you could even take hot glue if you wanted, because this isn't something you're going to be throwing into the, you know, the washer and the dryer and stuff like that. I mean, this is something, you know, you're basically going to surface clean for the most part. At least that's what I would do. I wouldn't want to like throw this, definitely not in the dryer, but I don't think I'd trust it in the washer either. I mean, this is like a cute Instagram moment. It's definitely functional because like your hands aren't going to get cold and your ice cream's not going to melt as fast. So I mean, it is functional. I mean, it's not just for show, but it's not something, I mean, you're not going to be eating this kind of ice cream all the time. I mean, it's not even, I don't even think they have it out year round. Those are just a couple little things I wanted to point out before I let you go for the day. And make sure you tune in tomorrow when we will be on day 4 and it will be single digits until Christmas. Like my mind is still blown we are getting that close to Christmas. But until tomorrow, take care.